Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spill the Tea. I'm your host, Keisha Savory, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Nicole Gurley. Hello.
That's right. And today we have two special guests representing some schools that we're not used to hearing from. And we're really excited that they're here to join us. Today's topic is on finding the right fit, and they're going to help us with that. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We're going to start off representing Ohio State. Give it up for Antonio Serrano.
OH. All right, guys. Hey, there you go. We have Buckeye and the fan in the house. Everybody, hello. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here on your YouTube channel and to talk a little bit about Ohio State, but also to kind of give you some guidance on how to start the college search process. There are over 3,000 colleges and universities in the United States, and you have some really great ones in Florida, but there are some amazing universities outside the state who really want to get to know you and can possibly provide you with great scholarships and access to our institutions. I've been in higher ed for over 15 years working in admissions, and so I know there's a right fit for everybody, and I know Ohio State will be the right fit for some of you. So hopefully today's discussion will stimulate some thought for you to look outside the peninsula of Florida.
Oh, that was lovely, Antonio. That was lovely. All right, Jeff, you ready? You ready? So now, representing George Mason, give it up for Jeff Fusco. Did I say it right?
Wow.
Yes.
Fusco, but it's okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Fusco, and I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Regional Admissions at George Mason University. And I'm actually based right here in Orange County, Florida, getting to work directly with all of our students from Florida that are interested in going to Mason. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about a Mason education is because it was the right fit for me. And it's where I ended up as an undergraduate student. And I love kind of getting to open students' minds to potentially a different experience. So many of you, for great reasons that we'll probably go into later, will stay close to home, will go to one of the great universities here in Florida, but some of you might be interested in a different experience. And that's what a lot of these schools out of state can help to provide. The number one reason that people look at Mason is our proximity to Washington, D.C. And that's something you can get in Florida because,
no.
Far for that. So, I love talking about college fit. I think I'm the person I am today because I found the right fit for me. And when I work with students, one of my biggest beliefs is Mason may or may not be the best fit for you, but through the process, I want to help figure out that it is the right place for you, if that's where you really want to be. And if it's not the right place for you, awesome. Let's make sure you find the place that is. And I really love getting to work with students during this unique and exciting part of your life, and excited to see what questions y'all have.
Both of you got us in the gut already to start it off. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's start this off the right way. Of course, we're talking to majority of juniors and seniors will probably be watching this episode and their parents, and the biggest thing is always how to start. So where should a student begin with their college search? And I'm gonna keep Jeff going with this one, then we'll hand it off to Antonio.
My biggest piece of advice is throw out any sort of social expectations you have on what is a good college and what is the best college, because I think there's this desire, and I mean, we all play into it as college and universities when it comes to rankings and, who's got the best program for this. It doesn't matter objectively who has the best things. It's all subjective, and it's all about figuring out where are you, what do you want out of a college experience? And once you have some time to sit and reflect on that, think, do I want to go away from home? Do I want to be able to be close to my family? Do I have responsibilities that might require me to still live at home while I'm going to college? Right. Or do I need to spread my wings and try something different, right? I think that is a good place to start. And then from there, thinking about every other type of factor that goes into the process. I like to say there are four main components in finding your college fit. It's personal, professional, academic, and financial. And we'll probably each of those in a little bit, so I don't want to take too much time on this answer, but I think thinking about those four areas of your life and using that as a kind of jumping point to reflect and figure out what type of college is going to be good for you.
Okay, great.
Well, you got it, Antonio. Talk to us.
Yeah, I think Jeff really gave a good, the essence of what it is to start the college process. I want to give you a little bit more practical timeline. And I know that this program is really geared for juniors and seniors. So let's start in 11th grade. I think it's really important to start close to home. And that means meeting with your college counselor at your high school. That is going to be the first step you should take in starting the college search process. You're also going to want to take in your junior year, start taking advantage of SAT and ACT test preps. You're going to want to register for early SATs or ACTs or PSATs if you haven't taken something like that. You're also going to want to start researching schools and comparing those schools. If you have the opportunity to start visiting colleges, right? I know that a lot of you in Orlando, you have large public schools in Orlando, you have small private schools in Orlando. So start close to home. Just go and feel. Do you want to be at a large school? Do you want to be at a smaller school? You can do these visits virtually. You can do them in person. You also want to attend college fairs. So I know there will be opportunities to do virtual and in-person college fairs, whether that's directly through your high school, or maybe there's a county-wide college fair coming up. And then you're also going to want to start thinking about and planning your senior year curriculum. You know, that's something that's really important. You're going to want to take advanced classes. If you're looking to go out of state, if you're looking to go to competitive universities like George Mason or the Ohio State University, you're going to want to be, you know, taking more advanced college prep curriculum. So if your school offers ACE Cambridge, maybe it's IB or AP, those are the kinds of classes that we're going to want to see you really pursue. Of course, you're not going to have all those kinds of classes, but those are going to be things that you'll want to start thinking about. So 11th grade is really setting up that foundation that you're prepared for what's to come in that senior year. Coming into your senior year, there's a lot more things that you're going to have to start implementing, continuing visiting those colleges, get to know admissions counselors like myself at Ohio State or Jeff at George Mason. We're going to be resources to you. We are admissions counselors. We want to get you admitted to our schools. And so we're going to make sure that you have all the proper dates and deadlines, how to apply correctly, what kind of scholarship opportunities are available to you. And then you're going to want to start narrowing down in that summer of your senior year, narrowing down your apply list. You're going to want to start thinking about that because come August of your senior year, right before you start your senior year, is when the common application opens, when the coalition application opens, and you're going to want to start getting into that applying pretty early. I know most opportunities for colleges and universities come with an early action deadline. We'll talk more about that probably as the presentation goes, but that summer before your senior year is not just to relax and you know, enjoy your summer. It's really starting to prep for that push into your senior year application process.
Right. So you do the party after you graduate your senior. Just kidding. It's all right. It's all right, man. It's all right.
All right. So Jeff, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but so this is the question we always have. So students go, there's a million large schools out there, or they don't even know where to start. Like, what should the students be looking for? And that's what you kind of gave, like the 4 tips or what they should be looking for. But what does it actually mean? Like, how do universities differ from each other?
Yeah, I think one thing that I would want to leave folks with is that you don't need to know when you start the application process, right? I think it's a good idea to, when you narrow that apply list down, like Antonio was saying, that you're giving yourself a few diverse options within that. So when I was applying for schools, I'm originally from Massachusetts, so I had applied to a few Massachusetts state schools. I applied to George Mason, which was a little further away, but I also applied to a small liberal arts institution in the middle of Boston. And so thinking about making sure that the places I put applications in were not similar to one another, they were pretty different options. So that as I saw where I got into and as I started to narrow that list down to making a choice, I was considering very different experiences. And so that was, you know, through the second half of my senior year, you really have all the way until about May 1st to make that decision. And so you have time between finding out if you've been admitted and having to make that choice. And it's hard to make the choice when you have 3 or 4 of the same options. And so you have a few different types of schools. Getting to visit, I think, is really important when it comes to making that choice, because that's where you start to feel that atmosphere. You know, even to think, I think something that scares people off from large institutions is this idea that you're going to be in large lecture classes and you're going to just be a number. And that's not always the case. I mean, a lot of times, you know, at Mason, I know a lot of other large public institutions have an honors college, and they have that kind of small classroom experience. Our honors college is capped at 25 students. And so we have plenty of our students who never see a classroom more than 30 people in it throughout their academic career. And so, you know, if that's an interest, don't necessarily rule out large institutions. I think college fairs are a great way to do this, whether it be a virtual option, and just be open-minded. I think one of the most frustrating things for me as a counselor is when we have students come through college fairs, don't even stop at our table, don't even talk. They've already ruled us out of mind because of preconceived notions that they may have, or haven't even taken the time to explore. Honestly, keeping an open mind is step one, because I think the more you expose yourself to things, the more you start to question, you know what, maybe I would like a school like this, or maybe maybe you've grown up in more of an urban atmosphere your whole life, and you want to experience that small college town that's going to be further out, you know, in a more rural part of the state or part of the country. And so it's always good to have that variety of options and expose yourself to a variety of options. Attending presentations, the fact that you're here today, I think, is a great place to start. There's never one right answer. And I think being able to really open your mind and see all the options out there, cast as wide of a net as you can, stop by visits at your school, things like that, it can't hurt to at least introduce yourself to different ideas.
So you said though, what's the professional part that they should be looking at in a college?
Definitely. I mean, if you know the career field that you want to be in, think about what are those internship experiences going to look like? Because as everyone has this idea that, oh, major equals career, and it could not be further from the truth.
Right.
If you talk to, I would argue 80 to 90% of people, the degree that they have is not directly related to the job that they're doing. Mm-hmm. And so thinking about what is the end game of this college experience and where am I hoping to go? Is it law school? Is it medical school? Is it working full-time in a particular industry? And trying to ask questions about where do I go and how do I find a program that's going to prepare me for that? And making sure it's not just about what you're learning in the classroom, but the way that you're able to apply and develop those skills. And asking the hard questions like, what is your job placement rating? You know, what are your graduates doing? Where are they working? How much money are they making? And experiences like that, because that is a huge part that I think is often overlooked.
Antonio, would you like to add anything?
I think the only thing I want to add to that, I think Jeff pretty much summed it up, but I think there are some pragmatic kind of ideas and things you need to think about as a young person when you start to think about the college search process. And I think some of those things are geographic location. You know, if you are someone who really loves to be outdoors and likes to do hiking and likes to do those types of things, you know, if you're someone who wants to be in a city setting, maybe you're from an underrepresented group like LGBTQ, or maybe you want to go to a school that is, you know, has a strong community for Black African American. You know, those are things you may want to take into consideration too, because there will be certain colleges and universities that support those underrepresented groups, or that will support your, not only your major, but your maybe athletic interests or community interest also. So going to university is not just about sitting in a classroom and learning, but it's also about, you know, forming a community, getting into jobs, doing internships, and being supported as you kind of enter into that next phase of your life. So think about those sort of geographical things, whether it's a city or more rural, if it's more liberal, more conservative. Those are things that you'll want to think about also as you start to think about, where do I even want to look at colleges? And I think that's a good wrap up to what Jeff was talking about.
That's awesome. You guys mentioned some really good things. I've worked in different areas, you know, where, you know, some of the kids have never gone to the big city. You know, when I actually, you know, they're thinking of Orlando as the big city and they're just like 30 minutes away. And you're like, hey, buddies, you can get there. But, you know, obviously schools like Ohio State and George Mason are far away. And some of the students may not have the ability to get there to visit. what do you guys suggest? I know that there's different ways they can see it. I'm sure some of your schools have some of those ways. Give them some suggestions on how they can find out more and maybe get a chance to see your campuses.
Yeah, so I think that, Ohio State, we've done a really great job. We get students from all 50 states. We get students from over 78 different countries. And so the best way our students are really engaging with us are, one, connecting with people like myself. Just like Jeff, I'm based here in Florida. I'm actually based in Miami, Florida, and I'm a resource to any student from the state of Florida who wants to get more engaged or learn more about Ohio State. So getting in contact with me, just talking about your interests, maybe what your career objectives are, that's a great way to start getting familiarized with Ohio State. Another way to get familiarized with Ohio State before you're even able to visit Columbus is to go online and do virtual events. We have tons of virtual guided tours that you can connect with current Ohio State Buckeyes who will lead you virtually around campus, hear from their experience, what it's like to live in the residence halls, how the food is, those types of things, but also getting involved in some of our large scale recruitment events where we'll invite you up. Now, we know that finances are an issue. And so for certain populations, we do provide travel grants. So if you decide to go through the application process with Ohio State, we actually provide up to $500 as a travel grant to bring you to to Columbus, Ohio, and to experience what it's like to be in the 14th largest city, which is Columbus, Ohio, but also to experience one of the largest public universities in the world, the Ohio State University, to walk around campus, to eat in the dining halls, to really get a sense of if it's your vibe and whether or not you would kind of gel in with that environment.
Great. That's $500 travel voucher? Do I get to go see Ohio State? Really? I've never seen it either.
Yeah, I've never been to Columbus. I'm down. Go
ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah, I would add in, so the rule that my dad had with me when I was looking at schools was that if it was more than 2 hours away, if we needed to get a hotel room for the night, that I had to wait till I was admitted till we could go visit.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good rule. And especially, I mean, by the time I really was down to 3 options when I was making my choice and settled on Mason. So I was interested in Mason off of the brochure, off of the conversation I had had with an admissions counselor, and thinking about my list and what I was looking for in my experience. But it really was that time that I got to go down and visit campus and set foot there. I remember looking at my dad after the tour and saying, this is my place. Like, this is where I feel at home. And I wish that everyone has that type of experience. And I hope that all of you have that experience. And I think getting into the atmosphere and physically visiting campus is a really important part of that, but not something that necessarily has to happen before you apply. I think what I see a lot of kids from Florida doing, they might have a family member up in the DC area. So they'll go for Thanksgiving, and maybe that's an excuse to go see family around Thanksgiving that you normally wouldn't have traveled up to. And then you tour a few schools at once. I mean, I think people have this idea that colleges are competitive with one another, and that is so far from the case.
Right.
All of us that work in this field ultimately want you to find your best place. And so I work very frequently with some of our biggest competitors, University of Maryland, American University, George Washington. I encourage students that if you're up in DC, go take a look at all of them, right? Like, take a few hours here and there and get that taste, because you're going to get very different experiences at each one of those campuses.
And I love that, like, anytime like you're on vacation even or visiting family, spend a morning just kind of walking around the closest campus just to get an idea of what that feels like, large, small.
I want to add one thing to that, just as a side note, because another really great way to get a sense of a university is to explore some summer enrichment programs. So whether that's between your 10th and 11th grade or 11th and 12th grade, if you have nothing to do over the summer, if you're thinking about what should I be doing over the summer, our universities and colleges, whether it's in agriculture or in engineering, maybe it's in architecture or business, maybe it's a music summer program, get involved in some summer enrichment programs at a university, live on the residence halls in the campus, and see if, that'll help you to discover and explore a little bit to see if it's the right fit, whether it's size or geographical location.
Great, what great advice.
Yeah, definitely.
So here in Florida, which I'm sure you're aware, we have like the Bright Future Scholarship, which is covering 75% tuition, maybe 100% tuition. And so a lot of our students just see the price tag of an out-of-state college and they're done.
Right.
I mean, they just look at the price tag, which I understand. They don't understand everything about financial aid. So they just see a price tag and they stop.
Yeah.
is there something that the students can be doing to make the tuition more comparable to what they could pay in state, or do they really just have to wait until grad school in order to go out of state? Both of you are shaking your heads no. Go ahead, Antonio.
Yeah, I was just going to say, listen, I'm going to talk a little quickly about my own personal stories, because I came from a lower socioeconomic background. I was a first generation college student. I was raised in upstate New York, and I was kind of pushed to do the SUNY, the State University of New York system, because it was the cheapest. And, you know, my guidance counselor told me, don't even apply to private schools. You don't have the money for it. My parents were kind of telling me the same thing. But I kind of was a little bit of a rebel, and I wanted to just explore some of those opportunities. I was actually able to get more of a scholarship by going out of state and going to a private school than I was to stay in state. Now, not saying that's going to be the case for everybody, but there are opportunities. For example, at Ohio State, we have a scholarship for out-of-state students called the Morrill Scholarship Program, which is our diversity scholarship. I had 22 Florida students receive that last year, and they're at Ohio State right now, paying no tuition at all.
They're freezing though, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, they're enjoying the brisk weather, and they're enjoying bonfires and hot cocoa and all that good stuff. So it's a
different vibe. Brisk weather, yeah.
But you know, there's nothing like sitting in a stadium with the Ohio State Buckeyes and, you know, cozying up with some blankets with your friends and watching the Buckeyes play. So it comes with the culture. But that's just one example of a scholarship. You know, we have tons of merit-based scholarships. So the best way to achieve those scholarships is by really putting your nose to the books and studying and getting good grades and doing well in school. Because the better you do in school, the more money you're going to get in merit scholarships from our institutions, which will allow you to be competitive with bright futures.
Right. And Jeff, do you have any more advice for that, finding the money?
Grades, honestly, being very, very transparent about that. We automatically consider all students for merit scholarship when they apply. And Florida actually had the highest out-of-state percentage. We had 91% of my admitted students from Florida. Wow. Merit scholarship.
Oh man, who knew?
And so very competitive. We got some smart cookies down here in Florida. Some being the keyword. The ones that are applying to Mason. And so what I would say is that there's a big difference between sticker price and out-of-pocket price, and understanding the difference between the two. And so I think being very clear when you're interested in a school and asking them, what is your merit scholarship process? I think the other piece is that as part of my role as this counselor is to see what extra money I can find for you. So when I'm working with students, I make it my mission. If I know that they want to be at Mason, I will make sure that they're paying the least amount that they can in order to make it there. Using things like FAFSA and aid that might be out there. And then I think the last one is outside scholarships. Talking to your guidance counselor, seeing what scholarships might be available through your high school. If they know of something through a local chamber of commerce, the Department of Labor has a really awesome search engine that is like a national database of scholarships. And so you can actually use that to see what's out there. I mean, you'd be surprised at the amount of scholarships that go undispersed because of applicants. And so my word of advice to students is that spring semester of your senior year, consider it a part-time job, 10 to 15 hours per week. Spend kind of searching the internet. A lot of these letters are going to be pretty similar. So you can use a base essay and kind of cut pieces here and there, sure that you're customizing it, and just put the time in, and you'll be able to find the money. The great thing about those outside awards is as you're narrowing that list, they're going to carry with you anywhere. And I had a student from Orlando, I think it was Lake Nona High School last year, that is paying less than $3,000 a year to go.
Wow.
Between the merit scholarships that she qualified for, we had one specific for her major in government international politics, aid that came in, and then some outside awards that she brought in. So it actually was cheaper for her than it would have been to attend UCF. And it was because she was so interested, and we really stayed in communication through the process that we were able to make that happen.
I love to hear you say that, because kids don't believe us, but it happens. Like, it's cheaper sometimes to go out of state or do something else than to just stay here, because that's what they know. And they just know that tuition is going to be cheaper, but they don't actually know once they do the work and find the money.
Exactly. One addition to all of this, I think the biggest thing when it comes to money and financing and out-of-state education is to remember that you cannot wait to the end of your senior year to do this. Okay, most of our institutions tie merit scholarship with early action deadlines, or they have an earlier deadline to apply. So you cannot procrastinate the application process. You really want to start in your junior year prepping for that, and then that summer between your junior and senior year, have your short list where you want to apply and get those applications all in by the school's early action deadline. So you can be qualified for those opportunities of financial assistance with merit scholarship.
What are about those dates? Do you guys know these your schools, what your priority dates are?
November 1st, I think, is pretty much the main deadline you have to think about. There may be some schools that have slightly earlier ones, but November 1st is kind of like that nationally recognized early action deadline for most universities. There may be some slight variations at other schools, but I believe Jeff and I both share a November 1st deadline.
Okay. And just so you know, their early action is the non-binding. So it's just getting everything in early to make sure you get all the money you can, get everything set early.
Right. Cool. Me,
go ahead.
you,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You know, our time is so limited, but I want to make sure that you guys get a chance to talk about your schools. And once again, thank you so much for joining us, by the way, because you've been hitting some stuff that we try to hit with the kids. And you know what? They're probably going to pay more attention to you than they did to us. So thank you for hitting those things. So let's go ahead and get started with Jeff. Jeff, tell us a little bit about George Mason. Give us the rundown.
And try to incorporate like why should our students be leaving this cozy, comfort, sunny Orlando to go out to your schools? Like what can it help to go to your schools, and what does your school look like?
Yeah, so the reason that I fell in love with George Mason is our location, first and foremost. I was really attracted to the Washington, D.C. area and being able to take advantage of everything that Washington, D.C. had to offer. But I was a little intimidated about living in the middle of a city, especially because I was from a small town. It was the first time I was on my own. I was 18. So from like a safety and a cost perspective, I was a little intimidated. So what I loved about Mason is we're just 15 miles west of the city. So you still have everything you need within 10 to 15 minutes of you. You can be in downtown Washington, D.C. in 25 minutes. You get that balance of that very traditional campus atmosphere. I absolutely, like I said, the moment I walked in toward campus, I fell in love. Very traditional campus atmosphere was everything that I was looking for. We're almost like our own small little town, city with 24,000 undergraduates, more of a little, and a big community where we can take advantage of that campus and then go explore. I think I also was attracted to Mason from a diversity perspective. We are the 11th most diverse institution in the United States, in the Commonwealth of Virginia and Washington, D.C. area. I grew up in an area where everyone looked like me, everyone had similar upbringings as me. And so what I loved about Mason is that I met people from all over the country, all over the world, religions I had not even heard of before, countries I hadn't even heard of before. And it was like meeting the world on my campus. It was just such a cool community. And I think because we're such a diverse environment, it really helps to open up perspectives. And we're a very open-minded campus. And I think that's what I loved about my experience, is that I felt like I was growing as a human and as a person, just as much as I was growing as a student and a professional while I was there. Offering over 80 different degree programs. So we really do have an option for most people. And I like to say that Mason is a place for students who don't think inside of the box, because the people that are attracted are people that naturally think outside of the box to our university. So if you're someone who doesn't feel like you found that university that is for you, I think Mason can be a great option because we attract a little bit more of a different type of thinker.
Cool. And now to talk about the Ohio State University. Go ahead, Antonio.
All right. Well, thank you for this opportunity again. I really appreciate it. Nicole, thank you for allowing us to be here today and reaching out to us before the meeting. But the Ohio State University is your all-American, quintessential, big flagship state institution. Very similar to the feel of UF, very similar to the feel of, Michigan or Purdue or Indiana. You know, we are a tier 1 research institution. We have over 200 academic majors. So if you are someone who doesn't quite know what they want to do, choosing a school like Ohio State that has so many highly ranked options really allows you to explore and really discover what's the right fit for you. You can come in undecided at Ohio State and declare your major after your sophomore year, still graduating within a 4-year period. One of the reasons why I think, you know, a student would choose to leave Orlando to come to Columbus is because, you know, if you're growing up in Orlando, you know, you're used to palm trees, you're used to warm weather, but life is more than that. And there are other cities in the country that will provide you with other opportunities. Columbus is the 14th largest city in the United States. It's also the capital city of Ohio. We get 100% score on the LGBTQ plus index. So if you are someone who comes from that population and wants to be able to be yourself, the city of Columbus is warm and welcoming towards that. And so is the university. We have a ton of internship opportunities. Yeah, I know New York City is very, you know, desirable in Boston, but those are large metro, you know, markets. Columbus is a mid-sized market that will provide you with abundant internship opportunities, but it won't have those high sticker prices of living costs. So it really provides students with that all-American city, an all-American university, and of course, with all the bells and whistles that a flagship university can provide to you. We also have amazing scholarship opportunities. So if you are someone who, you know, may not have the means to attend school, we have some opportunities for you at Ohio State and more than happy to explore them with you.
So awesome. Thank you guys so much. Not only did they get information about your schools, but of course in finding the right fit. And we truly appreciate you giving us your time. Hopefully we'll be able to chit chat with you guys again another time. And for those of you that are watching, if you like what you see, go ahead and like it on YouTube. Tell your friends about it. Let them know how cool these guys were, because they just made this interview even better. But thank you. And until again, peace.